All right, what we're going to do in this program is look at a for loop. A for loop is a way of repeating a specific activity or action. In this case, I'm going to print out the value of a counter I, and so it's going to say the value of I is and print it out. And so the basic structure of the for loop is I have a counter, and usually I have this as an integer that I introduce inside the loop. And I can start anywhere. Generally one starts at 0 and proceeds until I is less than some value, in this case 5. And then it says I++, which says each time through the loop increment I by 1. And each of these parts, the initializing of my counter, telling it where or how far to loop, each one of these is separated by a semicolon. So there are 3 parts, and each part is separated by a semicolon and is inside the parentheses. So that if I compile this and run it, it gives me that set of values. Now, I could very well say from I equals 10 to 15. Nothing says I have to start at 0, and I can compile that and run it, and it goes 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. All right. Now, the other thing is, let's make this 20, and I can make this plus equal 2, which should increase by 2 each time. And so I go 10, 12, 14, 16, 18. All right, so I have those options. The basic idea is a for loop tells you repeat something some number of times. Now, let's combine the if statement inside a for loop. And so what I can do is if I mod 2 equal 0, and whoops, so now if I mod 2, let's separate that out so it's a little more legible. If I mod 2 equals 0, that means I divided by 2 has a remainder of 0. Then the value of I is, and it is even. So let's see what happens. So I get 10, 12, 14, 16, 18. All right, so that this will repeat some number of times, but then my if statement, my conditional statement, will choose which values get printed. I could just as well make this 3 and take that out because that's not going to be even. Save that, compile it, and I don't need the extra and. All right, so save it and compile it and run, and we only get 12, 15, 18. All right, so you can make this conditional anything you want, and you can have any expression in here as long as it will evaluate to an, in this case, an integer. So I could say int num1 equals 5, int num2 equals 21, and then I could put that in here. And compile and run. And so all of the numbers between 5 and 21 that are divisible by 3 are then given there. Now, if we want to get a little fancier about this, I can do for double I equals 0, I is less than, say, 3, and then I plus equals 0.2. And I will just steal that portion of it. Control V. All right, let's comment that one out so we only have one. So now I'm going to loop on a double, and it's going to increment by 0.2 each time. And you will notice, I probably had too many values, that I go 0.2, 0.4, 0.6, 8, 10, 12, 14, etc. Now you'll notice the problem with doubles, because they don't always work out quite the way one would expect. But I can still print this out. Now, we could get trickier, but I'm not going to deal with that. Basically, the concept I want to look at is, in my for loop, I have a place to start, a place to end, and how much to change by each time through the loop, and then what to do while these conditions are true. So in my simpler case, I have, well, let's do my simple est case. I do 0 to, say, 5. So it says my counter is called I. It starts at 0, and it wants to go until I is less than 5, and I'm going to increase by 1. And if I do my really simple one, then I simply say print out the value of I. And we added in more interesting features as we went along. But this is the very simplest case of a for loop, and it will repeat some number of times, and that's its purpose. We will use this for filling arrays, and we will talk about that in another situation or another program. We can use doubles as counters, and we could fill arrays with doubles, but you'll notice that you do get some problems. But if I did this as, say, 6, and I just simply did plus plus, then I get a very simple, I get the same kind of result, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so that I can fill something with doubles, and that's no big deal. Okay, so that's the simplest case of a for loop.